Hi guys, do you know the terms user interface and user experience are actually not the same thing and they cannot be used interchangeably? I mean, I've seen a couple of situations where people do that mistake. They confuse UI for UX, right? And I can tell you one fact for free that UI is actually part of UX, right? But before you think I become a UI UX expert, I'm not here to dissect that. I'm not here to tell you difference or similarity. I have two senior designers, two gurus actually in the tech design space with me here who will be dissecting this conversation. We're talking about the difference between UI and UX. We'll be talking about the similarities. We're talking about use cases, right, where you can actually say this is UI and this is UX. They'll give us practical insight or practical experience of what they do in their day-to-day life as a UI UX designer, right? On that note, I welcome you to this edition of Tech Chat with Slimfit, right? And before we start, however, please, or how did they say it? Please let me subscribe to this channel, right? I know you've enjoyed some of the content I've shared earlier, and one thing I know about content is people enjoy content. People enjoy some content, but they are just selfish about taking calls, taking actions, right, to this content. Don't be that person. It won't take anything from you. When you watch this video, if you gain any practical insight or anything from this video, please just share. You won't die. You won't die if you comment or share this video with your people. And not just share, please. Help me to grow also. Subscribe to my YouTube channel by clicking that icon, and also click the bell icon to get notified anytime I upload new videos, right? And let's get into it. Yes, so I have with me today Tosin Ayenuro and Toni Adegbenro. Toni Adegbenro is a senior UX product designer that has cumulative experience of 9 years helping tech startups, companies, right, to help them with their product designs, right? And he currently works as a product designer, UX product designer at Apollo.io. And Tosin Ayenuro, on the other hand, is a product designer that has 4 years cumulative experience in helping tech companies, right, to help them achieve their product design objectives, right? And I can bet you that this conversation is going to be quite interesting because these are senior men in the tech design space, and they've had quite excessive experience, right, helping different companies to help them achieve their UX design and product and UI design objectives, right? So without further ado, let's get straight into it. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining me on this session today. Sometimes I mix both names, Toni, Tosin. No, sorry. This is Toni. This is Tosin. Please put the name. Toni, Tosin. Yeah, I got that. Right. So I want us to make this as conversational as possible. Forget all those formal introductions. Let's just make it a conversation, right? Let's start by saying, I'll throw the first question to Toni. Let's talk about the difference, right, between UI and UX. How will you break this down for a layman? One. Okay. Then the second question will go to Tosin. What are the similarities? So you come from the difference perspective, then you will come from the what's it called? The similarities, points of view. So let's take it like that.
Okay. Yeah, thanks a lot. I feel like this is quite interesting because I'm not going to lie. Till today, I feel like there are so many ideologies that come up.
Yeah.
You know, people have different perspectives.
Yeah.
But I'm going to break it down how I understand it,
yep,
and how I feel like, can also be adaptable, no matter what ideology comes into play. So I would say that, at the basic level, UI is more about the visual and aesthetic aspect of things.
When you say things like of a product or of an interface?
Yes, that's a good one.
Okay.
It's too generic. So more of the UI and visual aspect of products, digital products.
Okay, yeah.
It could be any kind of digital product, but it's more about, it could be like maybe a literal appliance. It could be a digital product. It could be anything you see, but it's more about that interface that you interact with as a user. Hence why it's called the user interface.
Yeah.
So it's more like how you communicate with a system. So it has a lot more to do with the visuals, has a lot more to do with the aesthetics, which is the feel, the look, how it appeals to you. And then user experience. User experience is the interaction with the system, with the product, the software, the app, whatever. It's more about how you communicate, how you feel, how it works. So hence why it's called, the experience, the user experience. So as you use the system, how does it make you feel? How does the system respond to you? And this is definitely where UI comes underneath UX, because UX is a lot more about the overall experience.
Yeah.
So that, as UI UX designers, this is where we come in. We just can't focus on, just one aspect. We need to focus on the entire experience. So yeah, I would say that's...
Okay, so let's look at this laptop, for instance. This web page I'm on, right? The look and feel, the text, the color, and all of that. The outlook, that is the UI, that's the user interface.
Yes,
right? Okay.
100%.
Okay. I'm learning also, because I've been in several rooms or several discussions where people make this mistake also, and even though I'm not a UI UX expert, right? I mean, from a knowledgeable point of view, I try to guy, that's not what you're saying, right? Then UX on the other hand, that's user experience, is maybe, so when you click on this icon on this website, what happens? That's the experience. Where does that page take you to, right?
Yes.
I don't learn now. I don't sharp. Okay, so let's go to Tosin. So I mean, I hope I've now answered the question. To an extent, well, I don't jump. I don't get. Okay, so let's go to Tosin. So what we say? What's the similarity?
So yeah, in line with what you're asking, the similarities between UX and UI. First of all, I'll come from the perspective that it's centered around the user. For user experiences, you're concerned about functionality in respect to the user. For user interfaces, you're also concerned about what the visuals looks like to the user, because the user would pretty much engage with the interface. And then the reaction from engaging with this interface also has to resonate with the user.
So does that mean we have specialists that are working in UI, or that should be working in UI and UX separately? Or I know the nuances, currently is UI UX designer. I mean, someone is doing both. But in the real sense of it, looking at what we just described, does it make sense for a company or for someone to specialize fully as a UI designer and someone as a UX designer? I mean, any of you can take it. Let's have that conversation.
Tosin, would you mind if I...
No problem. Yeah.
All right, so I definitely would say that I think there are different dimensions to this. So
yeah,
I would say that depending on the industry, depending on the environment you are, there could be room to specialize. And it's not a bad thing, because usually the way it works is, if you're a specialist, it's easier for you to land roles. But this is me going far. So at the basic level, what I would say is, being a UI designer is a specialization, because all you have to worry about is the aesthetics, the look and feel. Icon design, visuals, colors. That's what you worry about.
Okay.
And being a UX designer as a specialist has a lot more to do with research and the interaction design.
Okay.
So this has a lot more
That's
to do
thinking
with
about the users, like Tosin said.
Exactly. It's thinking about the users, thinking about how to validate the UI, how to validate the experience, and that's more of the UX design specialization. It also borders on the UX research specialization. So I think UX design and UX research are very connected as a specialization. But most companies usually would want you to have a fusion of both, because they are connected, as you also mentioned.
Yeah.
So, it's good because it trains you to be more proactive and hands-on in different dimensions. But it's not a bad thing to specialize, because you can learn gigs or roles faster. So that's what I would say.
That's true. I mean, imagine someone that only knows how to drive an automatic car, right? But imagine the other person, the kind of advantage that person knows how to drive a manual and automatic. I mean, I don't know. That's just me. Then, but with what you said now, does it then mean, because you said UI, that person is only focused on the aesthetics and all of that? But sorry, is that not a graphic designer? Correct me if I'm wrong. So can we say a UI designer is a graphic designer? I mean, we are not bringing UX into it yet.
People will come for you for that.
No, I'm not saying. I mean, based on what we just said, it looks as if a UI designer is a graphic designer.
No, basically, for me, my school of thought is graphic design is really broad.
Okay.
There are UI designers out there today who consider themselves to be graphic designers. In fact, they'll tell you they are graphic designers. Yeah. Because if you want to see it from the perspective of aesthetics, yes, you can say the UI designer is a glorified
graphic designer.
However, for sake of professionalism, you would say a UI designer now, the term is coined for people who are more into digital products.
Now packaging. This is just said for sake of professionalism.
Professionalism.
Packaging, not just package them.
They are in digital. They are designing digital products.
Yeah.
You would not say a UI designer pretty much designing for print or designing on.
All of these people say started from Shomolu now. I mean, I know people that started graphic design and they started from Shomolu and they transition and they now call themselves UI UX designer.
Yeah, so
it's like
evolution.
Club saying I am an administrator.
Not knowing that
you just or you could be a clerk who just grew into circumstance industry and you're now an administrator. So it's pretty much the same thing. You could start as a graphic designer. You could be a graphic designer who evolved to now become a UI designer because you're working with a tech or product-led organization.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. So let me ask this personal question. So what practices would you guys say aided you to be like a better UI UX designer? I know we all have our stories. I know we started from somewhere. We have our struggle days, our Ojuelegba days, our Shomolu days, right? Our Sapa days. Even though we see the Shege, Shege is constant. But like, can we talk about how did you guys? What really helped that transition? Is it transition or what aided you to become like a better, become better professionals in what you do now?
That's a really good question. So personally, Sakpa Day, so that's one thing. More like the drive to work better for yourself.
Yeah.
And I think secondly, it depends on what your plan is, right? For most of us into UI UX, right, that really picked it up. We started with graphics, and I feel like we all just woke up one morning, and then we questioned ourselves and asked if that was it, if we needed more. And I feel the moment you get curious, which is the key to evolution, the moment you get curious and ask yourself, okay, why am I doing what I'm doing, and is there more? Then, as more or less like a designer, you start to question how you can add more of an impact. And I think naturally that's where understanding the whys of what you're doing comes into play, which is the UX. So you could be a visual designer, graphic designer, but if you've ever delved into designing for digital products, depending on maybe the environment, the company you're working for, which might have a need, if you ever lay your hands on anything that has to do with a digital product, you start to ask the questions, why, how, and that's what leads you to the UX part and maybe the product thinking part of things, which is how do I validate? Okay, I'm pushing out this thing for my company now. Is that just it? Do I just design? When management asks you questions about your design and then you don't have answers,
you don't have something to back it up.
Like that's where research comes into play. That's where you start questioning: how do I use data? How do I, push my decisions? How do I validate my decisions? So I think for me personally, I feel like that was the journey. Wanting more for myself and then now questioning what I was doing. And then when you question, how do you now defend? Especially if you're designing for digital products. You might not have a choice. You just have to evolve. So, I feel like that's it. So
that takes me to the next question. Tosin, this is for you. What mistakes would you say you made during your early design days that you think, this thing myself, I know say I fuck up. I know say I fuck up. And what did you do to then become like a better person from there? I mean, let my viewers learn so they don't make such mistakes also.
Man, I think I made lots of mistakes. One of it was seeking validation from a community I was not part of. Now, let me explain. You see a lot of designers today on Twitter. You design something and you bring it on your timeline and you say stuff like, what do you think? Give feedback. Like, there's no story to it, you're just designing something. So anyone who's going to give you feedback will probably be giving feedback from an emotional part, or
they won't understand the context
where you're coming from.
And there's context matters to everything.
You saw a brief or you saw a need. You didn't just out of the blue. Even if you're designing from the sky, from space, something led you to where you are through your design process. So my first mistake was seeking validation. Second was not networking properly. I enter DM so.
And two people can hear you. They will hear you too.
Number of times I was aired. I probably should have changed career and doing something else.
And that shit can be painful.
Transitioning from graphic design to product design, I could, in trying to land my first role, it was difficult. So I was sliding into DMs. Could you help me? Could you refer me?
And as they slide and they give you a tackle.
Some were really good. At the time I started transitioning, Adetona came in really handy because he was one of the first people that reviewed my first ever portfolio. I designed it on Notion and I shared it with him and he gave me feedback. But in also trying to land a job, I'll reach out to other people because this is my portfolio. This is what I've done so far. Do you know anyone within your network that you could refer me to? I don't want you to just give me a platter of gold. I just need a referral. Let me get the job by my own hard work. Some people will read. They'll tell you, your portfolio is good, and next thing, no response. Others would see your message, read it, and no response. They don't owe me anything. But I kind of think like those were the two major mistakes that I made when transitioning. Or throughout my design career till date, I think those were the two major mistakes. Seeking validation from people who don't even understand what you're doing, where you're coming from and where you're going to, and trying to network and not doing it properly. Let me just put it that way.
Yeah, thanks. I quite agree with that because I think this is a general phenomenon. Talking about life generally, a lot of us, this is not even talking about design, a lot of us tend to seek validations where and when it doesn't even matter. Especially on social media, these people you are seeking validation for, they don't even know, they don't give a shit about you. This thing, like people say, is just a phone and app. Once I close this app, I close this phone, I forget about, I don't know you again. It's just, I just come there to have fun. I don't need your validation. I just put my stuff and I go and I have things I do in my real life, and that is where matters, right? I add value where matters in real life. You don't need to seek validation, unnecessary validation from people, right? So Toni, let's take this to Toni. What soft skills would you say is needed, or would you advise someone that wants to be a UI or product designer to acquire?
Okay, this is a very crucial question because I think the foundations for my growth has been heavily dependent on my soft skills. Okay. So, first thing I'll say is you need to have hunger. And when I'm talking about hunger, I'm talking about humility. The humility to learn. The humility to understand that you can learn from anybody.
I feel like I'm sitting beside a Toni Numelu now. Toni is giving that Toni Numelu vibe.
So I think you have to have the hunger to learn and understand that you can learn from anybody. Okay. UI design is not about who was there before you. It's about who has access to the information you might not have at that point. Okay. And being open enough to understand that you are going to be learning continuously. It's never going to stop. So don't close your channels. Don't shut people out. Let people listen, learn. Be willing to collaborate, especially. Be willing to reach out. You might get aired, like Tosin said. But if you meet the right people, they can help. They can give you cues. Every bit of information matters. That's one, like ability to learn, willingness to learn. Second is communication. In this new world where everybody is aspiring to work remotely, we need to actually learn to be better communicators. In how we express what we're trying to express, how we reach out to people, how we understand that not everybody is the same. So we need to understand that communication is about passing our message across the right way. So we need to understand temperaments. We need to understand that some people might prefer one way of communicating over other people.
People are different.
So
emotional intelligence is quite needed.
Exactly. And now this is now going to the third part, which is emotional intelligence. How aware can you be? Because there's this whole debate about the different generations we're in now and how some generations understand emotional intelligence.
There are some because maybe the last letter of the alphabet. I don't want to mention the name. They said those ones don't have emotional intelligence at all. The last letter of the alphabet, of the English alphabet.
So it's crazy because it's not about generation. It's not about when they born you. It's about an essential skill you need. in negotiation, in growth, in leadership, because we're all going to be leaders at some point, some way. You have to find it. You have to learn it. You have to embrace it.
Definitely.
If you don't have it, first understand that you don't have it. It's important to first discover, accept it first, and then now work on it. It's very important. I feel like with these three things, which is the willingness to learn, the humility to learn, good communication, and then
emotional intelligence.
I feel like you have a very solid foundation of growing really fast in design generally. And in tech, I would say. So yeah.
All right. So let's move to the next question. This goes to you, Tosin. So there was a time I visited a website. I mean, I won't name names. And on one of their landing pages, I saw Lorem Ipsum in 2 pages actually. Like, this is a big brand. I'm not saying like it's. I mean, some mistakes are acceptable for startup or new brands or SMEs. This is a big brand. I won't mention names, like I said. And I feel I'm not trying to talk down people's jobs. I mean, it could be an error, right? Errors, but there are some errors that are not permissible. Come on, but I mean, it could be an error. So, I mean, I want you to tell me an instance where you've seen some horrible UI errors, right? Like, and what do you think could have happened, like from a UI person point of view, or what would the person have done better? Did they not test? Did they not check internally, and all of that? I don't know what the term you guys use.
The answer to this question bullet might touch some other professions. The reason being, in my experience, I've learned that the output of a product doesn't totally rely on the efforts of the designer. I wouldn't want to call products out there, but there are several products I have seen where you would see some errors and be like, did nobody actually see this? Let's use Lorem Ipsum as an example. Sometimes it could be the designer not wanting to put effort into content, or it could be that content was not even provided, and designer could be, it's not my
it's not my fault, it's not my work, it's not my job, it's not part of my job. My own is just to design.
Let me just design and move on. So that could be one thing. And the other part that I wouldn't want to mention before I have to mention is developers. Sometimes with developers, their approach is so logical, is in such a way that what you give them is what they bring out. So some might not have the time to want to go through all the details if it's right or wrong. They just replicate it. And then there's a part where you question the skill of the developer. The fact that I designed a button to be 20 pixels in height or 50 pixels in height or whatever pixel I give to, but at the time of implementation, you decide to do what your ancestors told you. Totally out of what the design spec, even though it's clearly stated what the height of the button is. So those are several situations where mistakes are spotted. But at that, when you see them, you can't really tell, was it the designer's problem? Was it the developer's problem? Was it even a PM's problem or even a content person's problem? But outside of that, some other things you could see there could be mistakes or oversight on the side of designers is infusing accessibility into design. Sometimes we'll pick colors based on how we like them.
That moment.
Let me use it.
Oh, this yellow reminds me of my former girlfriend.
So you can just be like, this is what I want to pick, and you implement. You don't want to know if your audience are colorblind. You don't want to know because I've learned something. Okay, let's use colors as an example. In Nigeria, what's the color for morning?
For morning?
Yes.
I don't know. What's the color for
morning?
Black. Oh,
once you go to China, it's white.
Oh, okay.
I think it's big China. I think their color for when they morning is white.
Okay.
So in those kind of situations, you need to be very aware. Of these tiny nuances, I think. And it has a weight. It goes a long way to influence how you work, to differentiate if it's actually a mistake or a problem. So that's the way I would want to answer this question.
All right, thanks, Tosin. So let's move to Toni. This next question is about communities, because I always like to ask people I bring onto this channel this question, because I know the importance of communities, right? Relevant communities, especially for people in tech. what communities would you say are relevant or are good for budding UI UX designers to belong to join?
So I definitely will say that we have a few communities based in Nigeria and outside.
Yeah.
This might be completely subjective to me and communities I follow, but I would definitely recommend that people do an extensive search. Try to go out, find more communities, and if you have this talent to really facilitate and help build communities,
build itself.
We need you.
Yeah, exactly.
But definitely, I feel like there are a few communities. One of them being Interaction Design Foundation, which is most starting designers
IDF
pay for IDF. So IDF is a good place. It's pretty flexible. You can get to IDF, start hosting virtual meetups, physical meetups, and it's a good way to connect with fellow designers, because we have designers all over Nigeria on IDF today who are active members, not just passive.
Yeah.
Dribble is great, even though I feel like Dribble isn't as straightforward as IDF. Dribble is show and tell. We also have the community feature, which is you can connect with designers, who are like doing more show and tell, who are very active on the community, because we have a lot of Nigerians active there. And then we have some on Slack that I would recommend. We have one called UX Mastery.
Yeah.
We have designers from all over the world who are on that, and that's a very good opportunity to connect with designers who have a different perception about things. You can be active in the chat rooms, in the different groups, and it's also a good way to really just connect and reach out. Then there's also Designer Hangout on Slack, which is also a foreign community. You can go on there and really just connect. There is Dev Center Square, which I'm sure a lot of people know.
Yeah.
I feel Dev Center is great for quick conversations about what's going on.
Yeah.
For opportunities, it's a great place for opportunities if you need opportunities in tech generally, not just design. So I think that's a very good place to also go. And you can start a few conversations, even though, I feel like we could do more on Dev Center Square as regards conversations. And yeah, I feel like those are some communities I follow. There's an endless pool of communities, especially if you're active on Slack, Discord, and the likes. You can just really search and just find, and the most important thing is to get active.
Yeah.
Get active, start conversations, join conversations. I know a lot of us can be conservatives, but it's very rewarding to try to contribute, try to just speak up and just share your views. And then Twitter generally is also great. If you're not on Twitter,
blood of war. Dragging. We'll come to that, sir. We'll come to that.
Twitter might not be so ideal for critique.
Yeah.
Just like Tosin mentioned, if you don't add context, you better add context.
Like they will drag your life. You feel am I useless? Am I worthless? What did I design?
But it's a good place to really connect and see what other designers are doing. And learn. You links are being dropped, people are sharing
you
resources.
See what others are doing.
Threads.
You see how you can even get better yourself.
So it's awesome. So if you're not on Twitter as a designer, you should be. Forget about the dragging.
There are really good resources you could find.
Yes.
Yeah. Then I mean, more importantly, I love the part where you said talking about building. If this community doesn't exist, build it yourself. Anyway, so let's go to one of the very last questions. So, Tosin, what do you detest about your job, about being a UI UX designer? And you might want to give instances, maybe where you've had to do goals with your stakeholders, your people you work with, and all of that.
So one major thing I think I don't like in my career so far is feedback, the whole process. So I have this 4-step that I use to manage feedback. First of all, I acknowledge the feedback. Let's say it's a problem.
Yeah.
Then you tell me why it is a problem. Maybe you see something from my work. I say, oh, this doesn't look good. The reason why I do that is to know if it's actually a problem or is the feedback coming from just an emotional part.
Okay. That one said,
you can just see something and be like, I'm not feeling it. Okay.
Why? Tell me. Let me know why. What's the rational decision behind that?
And then I'll go further to that. Okay, if you were to recommend a solution, what would it be?
Because it's not just enough to just critique.
Like, tell me,
okay, why?
Why are you not feeling it? Let's just really understand.
Yeah.
So if you can also give me a solution, like top of your head, top of mind, or something. And the last thing I use is, okay, if I was, or if I'm to adopt this feedback you're giving me, what impact do you think it will have? Please, worthy of notes. You can do this with bosses that are willing to have a conversation with you. So tell your guy that doesn't want to have a conversation with you, you might get in trouble. Let's just hope that our bosses
are reasonable.
Most of us are reasonable, so you can have this kind of conversation with them. And so the biggest problem is feedback based off emotion. You're just telling me I'm not feeling it. He's not giving.
He's not giving.
It's so vague.
You will know Gen Z. You know Gen Z by their slangs. He's not giving.
You cannot tell exactly why. You're leaving me hanging. I don't know what the problem is. Is it a design perspective, or is it something you yourself cannot resonate with? Because if it's just you're not my user. You get, my boss is not my user. But I still have to convince him on the direction I'm taking. So, but if I can get feedback, I can let him understand why this is a problem. Then I can go back to my drawing board and come up with something tangible. But if you're leaving me hanging, I'll just go and come with anything, and we'll keep having back and forth. So, a project of 2 days, we're spending 1 week, 2 months. So that's pretty much the major problem I have. The second one is, I mean, I know a lot of designers have these issues. And sometimes when you have design hangouts, we joke about it. Collaborating with PMs.
Okay, product managers,
Product managers. Product managers who don't necessarily understand how design comes into it, because they know that they can design wireframes. They think that you can just make certain requests or certain things can just work. It will be nice if your PM has an idea of how design works sometimes. And then when they make certain requests, you guys can actually collaborate and come up with something really tangible. But if you have PMs that know nothing about design and they want to have a take on the approach of on the direction the product is taking, it's going to be a lot of problems for you as a designer.
Nice. So let's go to Toni. On the contrary, what do you no? I asked what do you detest? What do you love most about your job, about being a UX UI product designer?
Well, so many things to love. Right? First off, you get to feel the output of what you're doing. That's one of the most important things. That's one thing I love the most. Second is you're solving problems. If
real life problems.
You're actually solving real life problems for somebody out there. You're making their life easy. You're making things way convenient for them, and that in itself gives me a lot of satisfaction. It makes me happy, especially when I'm given the chance. I love what I do because also, depending on how you work, depending on if you work in a full-time on-site role or fully remote role. I currently work fully remote. It gives a lot of flexibility. I want to say flexibility, not flexibility to just do whatever you want. No, flexibility to actually build a life. Not just based off the value you're adding in design, but outside. So there's so much opportunity. There's so many problems to solve. There's so much satisfaction you get from solving these problems, and at the end of the day, you get to see what you do live, and then you also get to quantify the impact, because in this day and age, you can kind of like monitor the results of the output you created. So those are part of the things that I really love about what I do. Obviously, it's rewarding. Of course,
the outcome has to be income.
So if you put in enough work, you will eventually get the required compensation, not just from your full-time gig. If you're also the kind of person who has a lot of energy, because for design, right, if you have the energy and the strength, your inputs can directly impact the output. And output in this case, I'm talking about value. I'm talking about how much you can earn. I'm talking about the reward for your hard work. So there's so much to look forward to. Most especially, you get to see tangibly what you do. You get to actually see the outputs. Not just in the visuals, but also how you really get to help people solve problems, help people's lives get easier, and you get a reward for your effort.
Nice, nice. Let's take the last set of questions, right? I've enjoyed the conversation so far, and I hope you guys have been enjoying it too. And let me quickly take this opportunity to thank Toni and Tosin for making it here today. I really appreciate this. So this last set of questions. So let's start with. Let me go back to Tosin. Tosin, sometimes I just wake up and I see some hot takes in the tech space generally on Twitter, and I'll be like, want to deal. And these people, they don't even mind being dragged. They are very unapologetic about it. They just want to be controversial or for whatever reason. What particular hot take have you seen in the UI UX space on Twitter or on any platform that really got you like, Oga, which kind of lamba? I mean, which kind of whatever? What is this that you just dropped?
Yeah, for me, I think the most popular one would be, you must be a graphic designer before you can evolve to UX designer.
But you can't wait now. Wait, let me support. I'm not supporting the person. But you can't just fly. You have to walk before you fly now.
Of course, but some years before now, yes, you can say, okay, you must have started as a graphic designer.
Yeah.
But in the current world that we're in
right now,
you can actually pick up UX design, UI design as a career path, and you learn. There are similarities, of course. Basic knowledge of design, basic principle of design, which of course you would learn if you're picking up as a UX designer. But it doesn't mean that you must start your career as a graphic designer to become a UX designer. It helps. Oh yeah, it helps. For most people who are graphic designers, the transition was easy.
Yeah.
First of all, probably pushing pixel, be designing, drop shadow up and down pictures here. But later on, you come to the realization, so it's easier for you because you can easily show your work because you have that design, or you know what is good design and what is bad design. For someone who's just coming without the design knowledge, it's always a bit shaky. Because I mentor on this platform called Design Lab.
Okay.
So you see the difference when you bring in students who have design knowledge. You see that they are able to learn faster.
Yeah.
But those that don't actually have, it's a bit of a struggle. But I will tell you that most of the students that I've worked with, those who don't even have design knowledge, got jobs faster. So it's not about if I'm a graphic designer.
It's not about that.
It's do I understand UX principles? Do I understand how to these insights when I pull them and turn them into designs? Can I actually follow simple design principles and show these things out? So you don't have to be a graphic designer to be a UX designer. So that's one of the biggest,
one ridiculous hot take
that I think people should not necessarily work with.
Yeah. Nice. I mean, thanks for that. I can relate. So thank you so much, guys. So the final question to Toni. What of advice for upcoming or budding UI UX designers out there? What would you say? What could help their career? What should they be looking out for? And yes, things like that.
Okay. So word of advice is progress over perfection.
Wait. Don't leave me. Say it again. Sorry. Progress over perfection. Perfection. Oh, that's a good quote.
Forget about perfection. Just throw it away. You see those pixels you're pushing. You see that UI you're trying to perfect.
Yeah.
That is not what the user wants.
Okay.
You need to validate.
Okay.
You need to understand what the users want. You
Okay.
need to move.
Okay.
You need to break fast.
Okay.
Learn fast.
Okay.
Don't dwell.
Okay.
Don't think about how your UI is bad compared to anything you've seen.
Okay.
Forget about that.
Okay.
It's all about validation. It's all about what your target customer user wants at that moment.
Okay.
So whether you have 1 year experience, whether you have 10 years experience, it's the same thing.
Okay.
If you dwell too much on perfection, I'm going to tell you now that you are not going to be happy, because design is not about perfection. It's about iterations. It's a cycle,
evolving.
constantly evolving. If your design is the best today, in 10 years, in 5 years, in 1 month, it's probably not going to be the best, because it's iterative. The industry moves. So don't compare yourself. Don't think too much. Just make sure that whatever you're designing is functional, is usable, and you're getting feedback from your users. Very important. Get feedback. So that's one major piece of advice. Another piece of advice I would give is there are a lot of opportunities
out there.
Do not succumb to don't succumb to the scarcity mindset at all. Whether you're Nigerian, wherever you are, don't. But this is for people who are willing to put in the work. Don't think you're going to sit down
and the opportunity will just come.
No. You have to. If you can put in the work, there are endless opportunities. So I'm going to encourage you that you're on the right track.
Yeah.
Everything is going on just fine. Don't compare yourself. Keep moving forward. Progress, and you'll be fine.
Thanks so much, Toni. Especially in this world of remote job, right? And I see a lot of people, career professionals, that aren't patient enough, right? They don't want to put in the works, like Toni has said, right? You can't see, there are basic principles of life. You can't just jump. Yeah, in some cases it works, right? Some people, they call this thing, some people are very lucky. They call this thing, there's oil on this person's head. Not be all of us get oil for hair. Some of us na palm kernel don't jump for our head. So you have to like put in the work, right? And opportunities don't just come. You have to be prepared for that opportunity for you to be able to grab it. I don't want to sound like a motivational speaker right now, but that is just what it is, right? So on that note, that brings us to the end of this conversation. I really enjoyed my time on this set today, and I hope Toni and Tosin did too. I mean, it was quite an insightful conversation. I really appreciate. I'm not taking this for granted. I really appreciate you coming on here to talk to me and my viewers about UI UX design, the nuances and all of that. And I really appreciate that. And I hope you enjoyed this conversation. I hope you've learned one or two things from this discussion. And if you've done that, please don't be selfish. Share this video with people in your network. Put it on Twitter. You can do some extract from this conversation. Talk about it in your design networks, right? Subscribe to this channel also, where you are able to get notified when I upload new videos. And I really appreciate you guys for sticking by. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.